Chair Doherty, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Sarah Gelser, State Representative from House District 16, which includes Corvallis and Philomath. I wanted to first thank you for opening a hearing today on House Bill 2672. This is an important bill that will allow us to extend basic employment protections to those individuals that are doing the work that makes all other work possible. These are the individuals that care for children, that care for homes, that make it possible for other people to go and do other work, who today are excluded, actually, from many basic employment laws. House Bill 2672 extends the most modest of labor protections to this group of workers, domestic workers. Last fall, the first comprehensive national study on this group of workers was completed. It was called Home Economics, the Invisible and Unregulated World of Domestic Work. It was based on interviews with 2,086 workers in 14 metropolitan areas, and it found very significant vulnerabilities for this group of individuals. First of all, who are these people? They are mostly women. In Oregon, we estimate there are about 9,500 domestic workers. Nationwide, we know that in that domestic workforce, 95% of the workers are women, 54% are people of color, again, mostly women, and 46% were foreign-born. They were born in a country other than the United States and then immigrated to the United States and did this work. Many individuals come through organizations that match people to come and do domestic work within homes. Now, there are many people who are good employers to the individuals that provide domestic work for them, and this bill is not intended to suggest otherwise. But one of the recurring themes in this report was that domestic workers are much more isolated than other workers because they are doing their work in private homes behind closed doors. And I just wanted to quote from the report, "Working behind closed doors, beyond the reach of personnel policies, and often without employment contracts, they are subject to the whims of their employers. Some employers are terrific, generous, and understanding. Others, unfortunately, are demanding, exploitative, and abusive." House Bill 2672 is intended to provide some very basic protections to these workers. The first is to be informed in writing of their rate of pay. So when they go to work for an individual, they know what to expect to be paid, and that they would have written information about what their job expectations are, what is the work that they are supposed to do. It would also ensure that they had information about any leave that they might be entitled to. Currently, these workers are excluded from most wage and hour laws, so this would ensure that workers who work over 40 hours a week would be eligible for overtime pay if they lived out of the home, or over 44 hours a week if they lived in the home. It would be one of the other important protections in here is that these employees would have access to cook food for themselves that was appropriate for their health or their culture. It would extend 3 paid personal leave days after a year of employment, and would also extend sexual harassment protections to these employees. Right now, they have no protection from harassment based on gender, based on sex, based on sexual orientation, or disability. BOLI would adopt most of the rules related to this. We've done a lot of work in the legislature around the issue of sex trafficking. There is actually an even bigger problem of labor trafficking, where individuals are kind of moved from place to place, not paid fair wages, and they are unable to leave because their employers may hold on to their passports. House Bill 2672 prohibits employers from requesting or requiring that they keep possession of an individual's passport. It's important to note that the bill is very limited. It does not apply to a parent or spouse. It doesn't apply to children under the age of 21 or students or teenagers providing babysitting services. This doesn't kind of impact people's babysitters, and it doesn't impact people who perform casual labor. We have amendments, the -3 amendments, which also change the bill to clarify that the bill does not apply in the economic protections to individuals that are covered by a collective bargaining agreement or companion caregivers. As you know, there's a lot of debate right now at the federal level bill around work exemptions for people that work as companions. So we're really looking primarily at nannies and housekeepers. Again, just to quickly go over what is covered prior to the start of employment and on the anniversary of employment, and when there's a pay rate change, the employer gets it in writing. There's that eligibility for overtime for over 40 or 44 hours a week. It ensures that there's at least one day off that the individual gets a week. So after you've worked for 6 days, you get a day of rest, 24 hours of rest. If that's not possible, you would be eligible for overtime for that. If the worker lives in the home, access to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep in a 24-hour period, permitting the worker to cook their own food, and having time to eat. Again, one of the important clarifications to make about this bill that's different than legislation in other states is it does not require that this be a duty-free meal period. It simply requires that the individual have the opportunity to eat. And then finally, the non-economic protections. The employer may not take possession of the worker's passport. The employer may not make submission to unwanted sexual advances a condition for employment or a basis for employment decisions, may not harass a worker sexually or based on gender, race, religion, or national origin, and may not retaliate against an employee because they have inquired about worker protections. It's my understanding that this bill should have a minimal or no fiscal. It really is a very modest response to the needs of these workers, and I'm happy to answer any questions and hope that you will carefully consider this bill and hopefully move it forward for a work session so that we can provide basic protections to these workers, start to bring them out of the shadow, and extend the basic employment protections to them that they deserve, both respecting them as individuals and respecting the extraordinarily important work that they do.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of Representative Gelser? I just have one. How, since a lot of these are in the home employment and so on, how is the employer going to know that these rules have been implemented, since a lot of these people just hire domestics?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, hopefully individuals that are who are employing domestics are already having some sort of a relationship with the state in terms of tax withholding and other types of activities. I know that when we needed a babysitter that came on a more regular basis, it wasn't a casual babysitter. We had reporting that we needed to do to the state, and we were informed of our obligations as an employer.
Is there an education component for the workers, so they'll know this also?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that is not addressed in this bill.
Okay.
No.
Fine. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you, Representative Gelser.